I love the smell of chaos at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Absolutely. Cannot wait for Saturday at 2 o'clock, John. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into Monkey Knife Fight's college football preview show. I'm Dan Watkins. Joining me, the great, the wonderfully mustached John McKechnie. John, it's good to see you, buddy. I missed you. I'm glad we're back talking college football. We survived week 0. How's it going, man?
Feels good. I feel like, since the last time that we did the Monkey Knife Fight college football show, I was in Indianapolis, very, very nervous, about to throw up, certainly just from the nerves, not anything else that had happened earlier that weekend. But now we're back, and the Georgia Bulldogs are reigning national champions. All is right in the world. They get to defend it for a couple months here until either Alabama or Ohio State takes the crown back, but still going to enjoy this time up through January 10th or whatever it's going to be this year. So yes, very good to be back with you, Dan. And I know for you, things have definitely changed as far as Notre Dame goes. So I'm excited to kind of like hear your thoughts and maybe read the tea leaves on how Dan Watkins is feeling about the Irish now.
Yeah, we'll get into the Notre Dame stuff in a little bit later. I thought, John, we'd split up our week 1 show here. I thought we would do kind of like a refresher course, almost like a syllabus week with like a back to school here, and just kind of like an overview of the college football season, because so much has changed in like the last several months with transfers and the NIL deals, and then just freshmen coming in and the conferences and all that. And we might even finally get an expansion in the playoff this week if these guys can get their heads out of their asses in this meeting that's scheduled for Friday. But we'll see what happens with that. So I thought we would do that first, and then we'll do our week 1 picks a little bit later, and I will give you my full thoughts on Notre Dame and where we're heading into the season. So I thought we would do our college football preview, the season preview, with like a kind of like, do you remember back in the day on Sports Center when they had like the cold hard facts, or like the 6-pack of questions, right?
It
was like
some Coors Light.
Yes, it was Coors Light. So I thought we would kind of do that, but we would do a 10 questions segment here. I came up with 10 questions that I want to ask you, get your thoughts on, and I think are pretty much the most pressing questions here as we head into this college football season. And I know our producer, director extraordinaire, Brian Butt, has put together some bells and whistles for us, Brian. So do we have a couple like sounders before the questions here?
Yes, we do. Just let me know and I'll cue it up for you.
Let's get to the questions, Brian. So if you can, question 1, please. We are a Bo Nix program. Yes, we are. Bo Nix heading to Oregon. But anyways, John, first question for you. True or false, Bryce Young will become the 2nd player to win back-to-back Heisman trophies?
I am going false. I think that, last year he obviously had a really strong case. It was a weird, funky Heisman race overall, though. No one seemed to really want to take the bull by the horns. I mean, he, kind of fizzled out in that last regular season game. They needed some miraculous stuff to beat Auburn, but, had his Heisman moment in the SEC championship game against Georgia, whereas, CJ Stroud unable to answer the bell and get to the Big Ten championship on his own. I think that Bryce Young is definitely set up to have another great season, but at the same time, you lose Jamison Williams and you lose John Mechie. It's going to be tough to repeat. I think that Bama's still Bama. They're still going to be loaded. But I think that, asking for another 40 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in the regular season, I'm not seeing it. I think we see someone else emerge this year.
Yeah, I'm going false as well. I like CJ Stroud here to take this easily. He's the betting favorite. Our friends at Bally Bet have him at plus 200, so you can still get some decent value on that if you put some money down on CJ Stroud. But another guy, sneaky guy, John Robinson, plus 2,000 odds to win the Heisman. I don't hate that bet if you want to throw some money down there.
I don't either. If you're in on Texas, I think you have to be in on Bijan having a massive year and carrying them. And then I actually, when I was in Vegas in July, I put down a couple more even riskier ones, even further off than Bijan. I went with Jackson Smith and Jigba, the wide receiver 1 for Ohio State. I think he was at like plus 2,500. Will Anderson, teammate of Bryce Young, if he gets to 20 sacks, I think there's a chance, and I think that there's a very good chance that he gets to 20 sacks. And then the totally crazy one, ready to light that money on fire, Hendon Hooker plus 6,500 out of Tennessee. If they have their Heisman moment, if they beat Georgia in Athens, I think he's going to be firmly in the race. The numbers are going to be crazy this year.
Yeah, and if you hit that bet, you'll be singing Rocky Top as well. So
I think I will.
All right, next.
100 grand. What does that mean to kids now? if you rebrand it for crypto.
Well, it didn't age too well, John, but here we go. The transfer player that you are most interested to see, this can be fantasy wise or just real football. Who you got?
I think it's got to be the guys that we're not so sure of one way or the other. So that takes Caleb Williams out of the discussion. I think we're pretty sure that he's going to be just as good, if not better, as he was at Oklahoma. So for me, it's Quinn Ewers or it's Cam Ward. So Quinn Ewers, obviously the top-rated recruit in recruiting rankings history. Now he goes to Texas, where he's from. Can he make it work in the Sark offense? It took him a while to win that job. So I'm coming into this year with a little bit of a raised eyebrow for Mr. Mullet. And then Cam Ward, someone who lit it up at Incarnate World. If there's someone that can kind of have the Bailey Zappi year where he comes over to the FCS or FBS ranks after playing in FCS last year, I think it's him. They brought the whole brain trust of Incarnate Word over to Washington State. Cam Ward put up crazy numbers. I think there's sneaky chance there that Cam Ward makes this Wazoo team interesting, and it hasn't really been interesting in a good way since Mike Leach left.
Yep, I got Quinn Ewers on my list as well for all the reasons that you just mentioned. Texas has their best quarterback possibly since Vince Young, so I think that's exciting. And then my second one, John, I'm going with Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. If he is the starter, Lane Kiffin hasn't announced yet as recording of this show. I'm sure he's probably going to be the starter here. But 3 starts for USC last year. He threw for 391 yards, 325, and then 248. And now you pair him up with Lane Kiffin in the SEC. I'm excited to see that. All right, next.
20.7 Ethereum bar or 1.43 Bitcoin bar is flying off the shelves.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is flying off the shelves. All right, which coach will have a better first season with their new team? Brian Kelly at LSU or Lincoln Riley at USC?
I think it's going to be Lincoln Riley. I mean, he basically brought the core of Oklahoma over with him, poached a bunch of transfers elsewhere, just happens to have the Blitnikoff Award winner thrown into what's already a stacked receiving room. And you play in the Pac-12 South, really the only game that I see them losing for sure in that division, in that conference, is the Utah game. I do feel good that Utah wins that one if you're looking at Pac-12 futures. But I think otherwise this is going to be a get back on track year for USC, whereas Brian Kelly, you get dropped into the middle of an SEC West where you already have Alabama, you got A&M, who's ranked as a top 10 team, a handful of other programs that I think are going to be very dangerous. So it's going to be a little bit tougher for Brian Kelly to have that resounding success year one. I like the long-term outlook, I think, for Brian Kelly. You might have a different opinion there, but I think Lincoln Riley playing a little bit on easy mode going to USC right now.
Completely agree. Riley at USC. All right, next. I hate nerds. Yes, still do. Still hate nerds. Still hate analytics. But anyways, moving on. John, true or false, a non-SEC team will win the Natty this year? This is basically my way of asking you, are you buying in on the Ohio State hype?
Yes, I put legal American currency on the Ohio State Buckeyes to win the national championship when I was in Las Vegas, because what's the fun of betting on a national championship future at just plus 165 odds like what Alabama has? What's fun about that? There's nothing joyous about a plus 165 return. A little bit longer odds on Ohio State. I enjoy that, and I think that they're going to make it there, and I think that they have the offensive firepower to get it done. So plus 360 or whatever it was back then, I like Ohio State.
Yep, I love the Buckeyes this year. They have potential Heisman Trophy winners at 3 different positions between Stroud, Smith-Njigba, and Travion Henderson, who could be the best of all 3. I mean, but we'll see what happens here this year with the Buckeyes, but I like them as well. All right, next.
I watch this game every year and I cry.
What game was that?
Oh, that was that was me making fun of John Feinstein for the Army Navy game. So you can like the Army Navy game. That's fine. I don't know if it's bringing me to tears. So
fair enough. All right, who is this year's Kenny Pickett? And by that I mean the surprise player that kind of comes out of nowhere and is then a household name by December.
So alluded to him a minute ago, but I think Cam Rising I'm sorry, I was talking about a different Cam. I was talking about Cam Ward. Cam Rising. If Utah ends up being in the playoff race, I think Cam Rising is at the forefront of it. I'm interested to see if Phil Dracovic and Zay Flowers can end up, making some serious noise. I think the ACC is wide open. So if Boston College rolls into November undefeated, which is possible, I think that we're going to hear a lot of discussion about those two as the reason why. And then Hendon Hooker, again, I think that he's someone that has legitimate Heisman juice, especially at the odds that he's at right now. If Tennessee really gets back on track in this second year under Josh Heupel, which I think that they can, then I really like Hendon Hooker to be more than just a name that you hear bandied about in the South. I think he becomes a national household name.
Yeah, Dracovic is mine at BC. 16 career games at Boston College since he transferred from Notre Dame. 32 touchdowns, 24 through the air, 8 rushing. He's got Zay Flowers, as you mentioned, who could be a top 15 pick in next year's NFL draft. And I think heading into the summer as well, Dracovic had like the 5th best odds to be the number 1 overall pick. So some people are already kind of watching this guy to see what happens here. But I like that connection at the Heights at Chestnut Hill. Might even go check them out this weekend against Rutgers and see what happens.
Hey, why not?
Yeah, right. All right, next. That's a great base. I mean, I don't think you can get a much better base than that. Oh, okay. Not sure what we were talking about there either. But anyways, who is this year's Spencer Rattler? And by that, I mean the player with high expectations heading into the season that will come nowhere near meeting them.
Ooh, I don't want to be this guy, but I think it's Quinn Ewers. I'm concerned at how long it took for him to win that job. It's not like Texas was beholden to being like, okay, we got to like keep Hudson Card around. Like, no, that everything was in place for Ewers to come in, dominate, win the job right off the bat. The fact that he didn't, I'm a little bit concerned. They've had some injury misfortunes in that receiver room. It's not quite as stacked as it looked a month or two ago. So I'm a little bit concerned on Ewers underperforming. And again, we just haven't seen him actually play at this level. And some other guys I got to sniff out for: Tyler Van Dyke and Will Levis. Van Dyke, great out of nowhere story. But I have a lot of the same vibes that I did with Keaton Slovis. When he replaced JT Daniels, yes, he performed pretty well out of nowhere in that one season, but he came back down to earth. I don't think Van Dyke physically has quite the amount of tools that maybe he would need to live up to the hype. And I don't think that Miami as a whole really has the receiving firepower to kind of lift him up. So I think that Van Dyke could fall a little bit flat this year. And then Will Levis, you're counting on 40% of your like passing production going to Wan'Dale Robinson last year on short yardage stuff. He's gone. We get to really see who Will Levis is now, and I hope he ends up being good because he's a fun guy. Eats a banana with the peel on and all that stuff. Puts mayo in his coffee, not as cool, but yeah, I think that there's legitimate reasons to be a bit of a Will Levis doubter.
I was curious why there was so much hate going towards Will Levis going into this summer. So I thought he was really good last year. And then I saw the video of him putting mayo in coffee, and that was just about the most foul thing I've ever seen. Absolutely disgusting. So I'm kind of hoping that he gets benched at some point this year just because of it.
It's indefensible.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. Tyler Van Dyke was mine for the Spencer Rattler Award this year. I think Miami's got some huge expectations, as you mentioned, John. This guy's not very mobile at all. He kind of throws kind of with like a clunky motion too. And he didn't have much of a spotlight on him last year. And now with Mario Cristobal back there, the U is all of a sudden thrusted into the spotlight. Some people have them making the college football playoff. I think Tyler Van Dyke is going to come up short for the Hurricanes this year. All right, next.
I love the smell of chaos at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Absolutely. Cannot wait for Saturday at 2:00. John, is there a Cincinnati type team this year to look out for?
So I don't think that there's any group of 5 representatives that are quite on that level. Cincinnati was so well set up. They had played in the New Year's Six game the year before. So, I mean, they needed to run the table to get it done. They obviously did. I don't think that exists this year among the group of 5, but I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go the independent route, but not Notre Dame, BYU. Ooh. The schedule is all out there in front of them to have a lot of statement wins. They get to play Arkansas, who a lot of people are really in on. I'm not personally. They have a ton of returning talent. Love their wide receivers. They did lose Tyler Algier, but they got Jaron Hall back at quarterback. They got Christopher Brooks, Cal transfer, Puka Nacua, Gunnar Romney. A lot to like about this offense. I think they are going to be hell to deal with, BYU is. So I think that there's a chance that they're in the serious discussion come November.
All right, very good. Next. ordered a Spencer Rattler jersey. I'm going to wear it around Sunday. And if anybody asks me what my costume is, I'm just going to say a disappointment. All right. Very good. Halloween right around the corner. The player you are most excited to target in MKF contests this season?
Tank Bigsby. One, it's fun to say. Two, it's fun to pile on Auburn. And three, I think that it's going to be easy money to just go ahead and fade Tank Bigsby a lot this season. I don't think that offensive line is going to do him any favors. I don't think the quarterback's play is going to do him any favors. So Bigsby, great player, but I think we're going to see a lot of high numbers for him, and then I'm going to take the under on like all of them.
Has he figured out yet that when you have a lead in the fourth quarter of the Iron Bowl to stay in bounds, or is he still working on that?
At Auburn, I'm not sure if they teach that or not.
All right, fair enough. Next.
He's blinded by all these lights. What's going on here?
Okay. John, is Texas back?
Nay.
No.
I don't think so. Again, worried about Ewers. I think the defense is still I think saying work in progress is complimentary, if not deferential to Texas. I think, yes, the rest of the Big 12 maybe has taken some steps back here, but I think Texas, even with like all that added opportunity, I think that it just makes them going 8-4 this year all the more disappointing. If they even get there, they didn't even make a bowl last year.
All right, I'm going to tie this into a question that Brian submitted to us. Which coach is the first to get fired this season? I feel like Scott Frost is the easy answer here. I can't believe he actually made it back to Lincoln from Dublin, but apparently he is going to be on the sidelines during their next game. But am I crazy to say, John, that Sark is on the hot seat? If they screw this up this year and Quinn Ewers looks like a disaster?
I don't think that's crazy at all. I mean, Texas, like they've got way too many cooks in the kitchen as far as their like booster setup is concerned. They're just trying NIL breathed a second life into that program where like, yes, your money can actually like help you like actually on the field. So they're going all in on that, of course, and understandably so. If you're Texas, go ahead and try that route. But I'm not sure if Sark's the guy that's putting it together for them. And I think that they are just in this weird Sisyphus type cycle. They keep pushing the rock up the hill, but they're not really getting anywhere. So no matter what they try, and I don't think the money's going to fix it. And I just think that this is a disaster waiting to happen potentially in Austin. Once again, time is a flat circle.
Yeah, and they also have this big looming shadow of the Manning family coming down the road too. So
that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun story next season. All right, next, final question.
This is the John McKechnie lock of the century of the week.
All right, very good. This is perfect for this question, John. Your 4 college football playoff teams are?
Alabama, Ohio State, Utah, and Georgia.
All right, I got 3 of the 4 with you. I'm going Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, and I think Oklahoma is going to sneak back in there. Their schedule is kind of a cupcake. So if they get through that Texas game, I don't think they're going to have many problems this year. And I like Brett Venables too. Brian, who you got? Who's your 4?
No research. We'll go Bama, Ohio State. They seem too obvious. I'll say Georgia is a letdown. I will go USC, led by Lincoln Riley, and Notre Dame's going to keep it close on Saturday and go undefeated the rest of the way.
Oh, you are more optimistic than I, Brian. You are much more optimistic than I. All right, that's going to conclude our 10 questions and our overall season preview. Make sure you guys stay tuned for our week 1 show. We'll break down some of the contests and matchups for you guys.